Hello and welcome to Enjoy English School.
欢迎来到 Enjoy 英语学院。
I'm Stevie.
And I'm Laurie.
Today, Laurie, we are talking about one of my favorite kinds of English lessons. We're talking about good food. So, our lesson is called Good Eats. And we're talking about something that can be eaten for breakfast or brunch or just as a nice dessert. And I love all three of these. Pancakes, waffles, and crepes. And we're going to be talking about the difference between them, which is important in English. And sometimes in Chinese, it's easy to get mixed up.
Yeah.
But today, we're going to be clear on it and where they came from and talk about something tasty.
我们今天来到了美食飨宴的单元，刚刚 Steve 表示说是他最喜欢的单元之一哦。那么今天跟明天2天的文章，我们要来看到的这个中文的标题是：咦，这些都是松饼吗？那我们这个刚刚已经听到 Steve 老师帮我们念出了3种美味的食物，显然我们就要来看看这3种可能都觉得是松饼的东西，到底它有哪些不同，以及它们的美味所在。所以我们赶快一起来看看吧。
Pancakes, waffles, and crepes. People have been eating pancakes or something similar for thousands of years. Experts believe that simple, flat cakes were made 30,000 years ago. These early pancakes were probably made with flour that was mixed with water and then cooked on a hot rock. Thousands of years later, the Greeks and Romans made pancakes and sweetened them with honey. This simple food also led to other similar dishes, such as waffles and crepes. Some historians believe that waffles began in ancient Greece as flat cakes called obilios. These flat cakes were made from batter that was cooked between 2 round iron plates over a fire. Over the centuries, with the original ingredients of flour, water, milk, and eggs, the recipe was later expanded to include sugar, butter, and cream. Around the 16th century, yeast was introduced to the recipe, which made waffles much thicker and crunchier. In addition to pancakes and waffles, crepes are also popular. Crepes, which are often described as extremely thin pancakes, began in France during the 13th century. According to the folklore, a housewife spilled some porridge from a kettle onto a hot, flat pan by mistake. Since she didn't want to throw it away, she ate it, and the rest is history.
Okay, our subtitle today actually kind of explains it very well already.
That's right.
One is soft, or another is crunchy, and the other is thin. We could say also some of them are super thin. Yeah.
所以呢，今天我们看到的这个 subtitle 呢，它讲到了其实已经非常的接近了哦。他说呢，有一个是松软的。另外有一个呢，它是这个酥脆的，还有一个呢是薄薄的，所以其实已经把我们的3个主角都描述出来了。
Yeah. First, we're going to talk about the history of pancakes. Okay, people have been eating pancakes or something similar for thousands of years. So this is kind of interesting. People have been eating pancakes or things that are like pancakes. Similar means to be like something. Similar kind of means the same as or close to the same.
对。
For thousands of years.
所以呢，一开始我们来第一句要来稍微讲一下这个pancakes 它的历史了。所以一开始进入主题就讲到说，人们一直呢这个已经有好几千年之久的时间都在吃着 pancakes 就是我们讲的松饼。然后呢，或者应该更正确的说是吃一个类似的食物。
Experts believe that simple flat cakes were made 30,000 years ago. So we're talking a long, long time ago.
Yeah.
Right? So flat just means, well, flat. It's the only word we have.
扁平。
Yeah.
所以呢，接下来我们来看到这一句，他讲到说，专家们认为这个 simple 我们可以翻译成是普通既普通而且呢又扁平的这个烤饼呢，是在3万年前呢就被做出来的。
Yeah. And here, believe, like you said, believe, when we hear this word in a lot of books, believe means 相信, right? So, of course, here it could be 相信 or it could be 被认为.
认为.
Yeah, the same thing. These early pancakes were probably made with flour that was mixed with water and then cooked on a hot rock. So flour, it was, and it wasn't flour like today. 不像今天的面粉。
真的。
Yeah, they took grain. Grain is like 谷类。
对，谷类，谷物。
So they took grain and they beat it with a rock.
用石头打它。
Yeah, and mixed it with water. So it wasn't, the flour we have today is very fine.
对。
它被磨得很细。
很细，然后白白干干净净。
Yeah, but the flour before, it was probably bigger pieces with little pieces. 有细的有
大颗小颗都有。
有大颗小颗，有比较细的都有。And it even had a little bit of rock in it. Because they would pound it with a rock.
因为你用石头在敲嘛，所以搞不好里面都有一些屑石头。
Yeah, that's why everybody's teeth was always broken.
所以吃到牙齿都会断掉的原因是这样，咬到石头了。
Yeah, so these early pancakes were made with flour and water and then cooked on a rock.
所以接下来这句讲到这些早期的这个松饼呢，可能是 probably 就是可能可能是怎么样呢 ？were made 这里有一个被动式看到，就是被制作因为它的主词是松饼，所以当它是被做出来的。被做出来是用什么呢 ？with 后面告诉我们用面粉然后呢，怎么样的面粉呢 ？That 后面就讲到了 was mixed with water， 所以是跟水去混合，然后呢，在一个热的这个岩石上面呢来做出来的。
Thousands of years later, so the ones we just talked about were like 30, they were the first ones.
That's right.
最早的那种。
最早的，对。
Yeah. Thousands of years later, the Greeks and Romans made pancakes and sweetened them with honey. So, thousands of years later, by now, the Greeks and Romans, they knew how to make bread. So, we know they could make bread, so we know that their flour was more fine, 比较细。
比较精细了。
Yeah. So, they made pancakes, and so they were lighter. 他们比较轻，they fluffed up more, and they were made, they sweetened them with honey.
所以呢，接下来讲到，那么刚刚前面提到的是最早的3万年前的那种类型的早期松饼，然后接着再讲到过了数千年之后呢，希腊人跟罗马人他们也做松饼，而且呢，他们让这个松饼 sweeten 是一个动词，就是使变甜使这个东西变甜，使什么呢 ？Them 就是指这个松饼，使松饼变甜，用的什么方法呢？是用蜂蜜。
Yes. And these kinds of pancakes were made for people with money.
Of course.
Yeah.
就是给有钱人，还有贵族，有没有？
Right.
对。
So this simple food, because it was just a cake made with honey cooked in a pan, this simple food also led to other similar dishes such as waffles and crepes. When we say something leads to something, that means because of this, it kind of became other things. It led to another thing.
That's right. 所以呢，接下来讲到说，那么这个简单的食物呢，就也衍生出 或者是促成了都可以。这一个 lead to 引往什么方向，导往什么方向。所以呢我们可以翻成促成了其他的很类似的食物，像是呢格子松饼还有可丽饼。
Yeah. Okay, we're going to stop for a quick break, and we'll be right back with part 2. Okay, looking at the next paragraph, some historians believe that waffles began in ancient Greece as flat cakes called obilios. Okay, first of all, historian, that's one of our vocabulary words. People who study history. Some historians believe that waffles began in ancient Greece. Now, a waffle is different from a pancake. Pancake is just like flat and fluffy, right? 就是简单的松饼. But a waffle, it has lines in it, okay? And usually a waffle is soft on the inside, but the outside is more crispy or crunchy. Okay, 外面会比较脆，
对，
中间
比较软。
Yeah, it's like soft, like a pancake. So that's what a waffle is. But they say that waffles, they think, they started in ancient Greece, a long time ago. And these waffles in the beginning were flat cakes called obilios.
所以接下来的第二段呢，我们就进入了另外的一个主角了就是格子松饼。所以呢，他提到说，有一些历史学家们认为，格子松饼也就是 waffles， 它 began 就是开始于什么时候呢 ？Ancient Greece 就是古希腊，所以它开始于古希腊。那么当时呢，它是一个这个 flat cakes 就是这个薄烤饼，然后呢称为 obilios。
Now, 这个跟 pancake 有什么不一样？ Pancake, you cook one side, you turn it over.
对，两面就把它煎完就可以了。
Yeah, 你要反过来。
对。
But what do you do when you cook a waffle?
用那个机器。
Yeah. So it cooks the two sides at the same time.
把它夹住。
两个被压的，
对。
然后两边都一起烤。
对。
Right?
Yeah.
So that's what makes a waffle. So why are these flat obilios like waffles? The next sentence says, these flat cakes were made from batter. Batter is when you mix the flour and eggs and milk together. That is called a batter.
面糊。
Yeah. Cake also is made from a batter.
没错。
Yeah, 蛋糕也是用 batter 这个字做的。So these flat cakes were made from batter that was cooked between two round iron plates over a fire. So they put the pancake batter on a flat metal pan. They put another pan on top and then cooked it over a fire.
That's right.
So like a waffle, 它就是被夹在两片
铁片。
两个铁片中间。So that made them more crispy. So that's why they say this is the first kind of waffle, because it was cooked between two other pans.
That's right. 所以呢，接下来这一句他就讲到了这个古希腊的时候，这个 obilios 它的制作方法，那就跟现在的这个格子松饼是很像的了所以这一句他讲到说呢，这些薄烤饼呢是被制作出来，是来自于这个面糊，而且这个面糊怎么样呢 ？That was cooked. 是被煮的时候呢，是 between two round iron plates， 所以呢是在两个圆形的铁盘的这个夹在它的中间，然后呢在 over a fire， 所以在火上面这样子去烤它，所以这个是它的制作方式。
Yes. Over the centuries, and century means 100 years. So over hundreds of years.
That's right.
Over the centuries, with the original ingredients of flour, water, milk, and eggs, the recipe was later expanded to include sugar, butter, and cream. This is a kind of a complex sentence, but it says, in the beginning, originally, the batter for pancakes was flour, water, milk, and eggs. And over the centuries, with these original ingredients, it later changed. It expanded. Expand means to, like, 扩大, right? It becomes bigger, but this means it started to include other things. And these other things included sugar, butter, and cream. So this is saying over time, it became more and more tasty.
没错。
Yeah.
所以呢，接下来讲到，随着几个世纪的过去以后呢，就是几百年以后呢，有着原来的这个食材。好，那么什么食材呢？就是面粉、水、牛奶跟这个鸡蛋。那么这样子的一个食谱呢，则是在稍后 later 后来呢，被 expanded 是被整个扩大被发展出来呢，去 include 新增入、新加入了糖、奶油跟这个 cream 就是我们说的这个鲜奶油。
Around the 16th century, yeast was introduced to the recipe. Now, we use the word introduce, 通常是来介绍别人, right?
对。
Let me introduce Laurie to all of you.
对。
But when we say something was introduced to another thing, like yeast was introduced to the recipe, that just means they started using yeast.
That's right.
In this recipe. Okay?
对。
It was introduced to. It just means they started using it with this thing.
That's right.
So, around the 16th century, yeast was introduced to the recipe, which made waffles much thicker and crunchier. Okay, because now, what does yeast do?
酵母会让它发酵。
Yeah. Yeah. 发酵 or 发酵粉. It made them puff up. They became thicker. And that also made them crunchier. 这样是因为这样也变得比较脆。
脆。
Right? So they started to evolve. They started to change.
所以接下来这句讲到说，大约在16世纪的时候呢，这个酵母 yeast 呢，它呢被这个加入了这个食谱里，被引进了这个食谱里头。然后呢，这样的一个状况呢，也使得这个格子松饼更加的厚了一些，而且也更脆了一些。
Now I'm hungry.
You are always hungry.
We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back with the third paragraph in today's article. Okay, we're back and looking at the third part of our paragraph. So, in addition to pancakes and waffles, crepes are also popular. So we just talked about early pancakes and early waffles. Now we're talking about crepes because crepes are also very popular.
所以呢，接下来我们第三段当然就要进入我们的第三个主角了。所以讲到说，除了松饼跟格子松饼之外呢，可丽饼也是非常受欢迎的。
Yeah. Crepes, which are often described as extremely thin pancakes, began in France during the 13th century. So, crepes, which are often described as, when we describe something as something, it means, well, the word we have is describe.
That's right.
We're kind of giving you the details. We're telling you about this thing, right? And so, crepes were described as, they were said to be extremely thin pancakes.
没错。
And they began in France during the 13th century.
所以接下来他就当然进入这个主角的介绍，讲到说可丽饼怎么样的可丽饼呢？那个常常被描述为是极度薄的这个松饼的这个可丽饼它开始于13世纪的法国。
Now, remember these other things we talked about, waffles and pancakes. The recipe changed over time, right? It evolved. E-V-O-L-V-E, evolve, which in Chinese is...
演化, 进化,
So, listen to how crepes evolved. According to folklore, according to the folklore that we hear, here we could also say according to the legend, the old stories that they tell. A housewife spilled some porridge from a kettle onto a hot, flat pan by mistake. So you have a housewife carrying a pot of porridge. And porridge would be something like 一个
燕麦糊
or 粥类的东西, right? And she was carrying it. She spilled it. Oops! A little bit spilled from the kettle onto a hot, flat pan. Psh!
Okay.
By mistake. Okay, it happened on accident. Was by mistake.
对，所以呢，根据民间的传说，那么有一位家庭主妇，她呢，在这个不小心的情况之下呢，她从水壶中撒了一些燕麦粥或燕麦糊到了一个热的平底锅上。
And it cooked. Since she didn't want to throw it away, she ate it. And the rest is history. They're saying, and now we have crepes. The rest is history.
对，所以呢，接下来他讲到说，既然呢，他不愿意把它丢掉，所以他就吃了它，而剩下的大家就都知道了，因为都成为历史了嘛。
Yeah. So we're going to talk more about this story tomorrow, but first, we're going to look at some words and phrases really quick as a review. Okay, our words and phrases for today. We learned flat. We also learned lead to, or something that led to something else. We learned the word historian and original. We also learned the phrase be introduced to somebody or something. And we learned the phrase be described as, to be described as something else. We also learned the word spill and by mistake, by accident, by mistake. So those are our words and phrases for today. Now, tomorrow, we're going to talk more about pancakes, waffles, and crepes. Bye-bye.